This is section 7.1, and we are going to be calculating various types of employees' pay, or employees' gross pay, I guess I should say. And so let's talk about gross pay. Gross pay is the amount of money you earn before anything is withheld. And so when we're calculating gross pay, that's before taxes or insurance or any of those kind of things. Now we have to talk about some different pay periods, because there are all kinds of different pay periods. You can be paid weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. And so you can see how you would figure out how much you're making per pay period if you knew the earnings for the year, or whatever it is you might be looking at. If you can see here, it's showing 50,000 divided by 52, so it would be a weekly amount of 961.54, and so on. Okay, so the number of times you're paid each month can make a difference on how you do some things, and we're going to be talking about that as we go through this lesson and in fact the next lesson. All right, so here's our first example. I'm not sure how to say, I'm going to say it's Lay. A 22-year-old college-educated man accepted a job at Foxconn Technology, where the iPad was being produced for Apple in Chengdu, China. Chengdu, not sure how to say that either. He makes $22 a day, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Now, as you can see, that's certainly not comparable to what we would make here in our country. A company perk included company housing and dorms for the 70,000 employees. It was common for 20 people to be assigned to the same 3-bedroom apartment. So you can see that that is going to be very crowded, right? We're going to find the hourly, weekly, and annual gross pay, okay, based on this. And then you'll really get to see how that compares to the kind of pay that we might earn. All right, so let's look at this. First, we're going to look at the hourly pay. And we were given $22 a day, 12 hours a day, right? So we're going to take 22 and divide that by 12. And it is 183 with the 3 repeating. We're talking about money here, so we're going to round it accordingly to $1.83 per hour. Very small wages, right? And then if we want to find the weekly pay, right? And it's 6 days a week, remember? So weekly pay is going to be $22 per day times 6. And then last, annual pay, for that means for the year, right? How much is he going to be paid yearly? And so we're going to take the amount per week times 52 weeks, and we see that that will be $6,864. So that's an interesting question, I think, you know, seeing how things might happen in a different country. And remember, you know, that we were talking about, all of this was about gross pay, right? So that's before anything is withheld. Okay. So this is the Fair Labor Standards Act, and it basically is just talking about time and a half pay if you work more than 40 hours per week. There, of course, are exemptions in some cases, but a lot of people earn overtime pay, and of course the rate is much nicer than the hourly pay. So to find gross pay, we take the number of hours the employee worked times the rate per hour. The overtime pay rate, we would take the regular hourly pay rate times 1.5. And then gross earnings are going to be the total for the first 40 hours at the normal pay, and then plus the overtime hours at a rate of 1.5 times the normal pay. And so it's not too hard to figure, but you just have to be careful on, you know, calculating everything and coming up with the number of hours, and make sure that you got that written out correctly. Okay, so let's take a look at this chart. We have a few things we'll fill in the chart, and then we'll also do some calculating down below to finish this chart. So we're going to calculate the total number of hours for blue. And so if you take these and add them all together, the 12, we've got 9 4 times and a 3, right? So 9 4 times is 36 plus 12 is 48 and 3. So we end up with 51 hours. Whoops, I still have my highlighter. I don't really think that's going to work. So total hours are 51. And then that means that they worked 40 hours of regular time and 11 overtime hours. Now, we're going to calculate the overtime rate, and that's simply taking the regular rate times 1.5. And that gives us a total of $12 per hour for the overtime hours. Okay, so for problem 2, we're going to take 40 hours times the normal rate of pay, which is 8 per hour, and that's going to be $320 per pay period. And then, well, this is a weekly pay per week, okay? And then we're going to take 11 overtime hours times the hourly rate for overtime pay, and that will be 132. So the total is going to be $452. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chart too. 452. And then part 3, sorry, no, not part 2. We're going to add these hours up. Just grab your calculator and total up the hours. And that in this case is 50.75. So once again, we have 40 normal hours, regular hours, and then we have 10.75 overtime. And then hourly rate for overtime is going to be $9.50 times 1.5. And that gives us $14.25 per hour. Okay, so then we do our calculating, right? We're going to do 40 hours times regular pay, and then we're going to do 10.75 hours times the overtime pay amount. Okay, so it's $380 for regular pay with an additional $153.19. Just round that if needed on however that comes out. And then we have a total of $533.19. And I'll put that in the chart also. All right, so that is working with overtime pay. Okay, next. So this is called piecework. And a lot of times when I've taught this class in a seated class, I'll have students who have worked some type of piecework where they're producing something. They get paid per unit, right? So we find the gross pay with the number of units times the rate per unit. And this is a fairly simple example. We have 300, Phil did 340 units at $2.50 per unit. So we're just going to multiply that and we get $8.50. So the pay is $8.50. In this case, it looks like they get paid just by piecework, right? There's not an hourly rate. There's a number of units rate. Okay. Now this one gets a little more complicated. One thing I thought about when I was doing this problem is That's a lot of apples for not very much money, and you'll see what I mean whenever we calculate this. So this one is called a differential pay schedule, and that means your pay rate is based on the number of units that you, in this case, you're picking apples, so the number of apples you've picked or the number of things you've completed, and basically the more you do, the higher the pay gets. But in this case, for picking apples, it seems like really low pay because I feel like it would take a little while to pick 1,675 apples, right? That'd take quite a while. So on this case, for numbers 1 through 1,000, that's how many you've picked. You get 3 cents each. So we're going to take 1,000 apples times 3 cents, and that's $30. And then it's 1001 through 1600 on the next one. So that would be, she did 1675. So 600 apples times the pay rate of 0.05, 5 cents per apple. Right? And then that would be $30. My pug is snoring really loud. Anyway, I've got my headphones on, so you may or may not be able to hear him. And then last, we're up to 1,600, so there's 75 more apples. And the pay has gone up to 7 cents per apple for this part, which is $5.25. And so we have a total of $65.25 for picking those apples. So I guess if you're picking apples, if you can do that in just a few hours, then maybe that's a decent amount of pay, right? If it's taking the whole day, that may not be the greatest pay, right? If you're working for 8 hours to get that, what would that be? 65.25. It's $8.15 an hour, so I guess it depends on what kind of job you need to have, right, for that. Let's see. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is commission. I think we'll do this first one, and then we'll go, and then I may pause or stop the video and do another one to finish up the lesson. This one is a fairly straightforward example. Straight commission is when a salesperson, their sales are based just on, or their commission's based on just sales, or their pay is based on sales and commission. I'll try to get this out straight. So then a draw, though, is something that they get an advance on. And basically, they're making straight commission. The draw is an advance on their salary, so they have to pay that back, basically. In this case, the numbers are straightforward, right? The sales are 250,000, and they get paid 6% of that. So we're going to multiply 25,000 times 6%, and that is $15,000, right? And then we have to subtract the draw, right? They've already received that draw. And so, this person's making some pretty good money, right? And a lot of times salespeople do, because it is based on how much they can sell. And so they only get the $7,500. Also, commission is taxed at a pretty high rate. And so that's a little bit discouraging. I have people in my family who have been in sales, and that is very true, that you get a pretty high tax rate on those. So the end of month commission, the gross is $7,500, and then of course taxes and everything would be withheld from that. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video and finish this lesson on the next one.